Hey everybody, what's up? It's Will, and we're back with another episode from the Wrestling Podcast. And right to my over here, I have Emmett Sherlock, and then um, we have Jackson Disario. Jackson, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. So Emmett, let's get on to the first question.
All right, so what are your accomplishments? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've this past year I qualified for the NCAA's, and in high school I was a 3-time state champ and Su-32 All-American. And I mean, I've been wrestling for a while. I go to Stanford University, and that's about it.
Nice. So you placed second in the Pac-12, which is a huge accomplishment. You wrestled Arizona State's Brandon Courtney in the finals, and you lost 4-1. Not bad considering you were teched by him earlier in the season. What adjustments did you make? And how much better of a wrestler did you become in a short period of a time?
I think the biggest adjustment I made was just knowing I was going to be able to wrestle with him and compete with him. When he teched me, I got sucked back 3 times in college with 4-point back points. It's hard to come back from. So just making those adjustments, and then on my feet, being a little bit stingier and staying in better position helped a lot.
All right. So I know that you're a great student. What is your major, and how tough is it balancing athletics and academics? Tips for balancing the two.
Yeah, so I'm majoring. I haven't officially declared my major, but I'm planning on majoring in management science and engineering, which is my school's version of a business degree. And in terms of managing wrestling in school, it's definitely it takes a little bit of a learning to figure out how to do it. But once you once the season starts, it's really hard. You don't have a lot of time to do many other things, so it's a little bit easier to focus on just school and wrestling.
Yeah.
So Emmett got to watch your first practice firsthand, and you guys drilled together. You have a great work ethic, and you're humble, and learn from wherever you can from everybody around you. What coaches influence you to be this way?
What was it?
Coaches or people influence you this way?
Work, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, in terms of just trying to be humble, I wrestled with Justin Ruffin a lot, my entire career while I was in high school and elementary and all through that. And he's one of the most humble wrestlers I know, despite how good he was in high school. And so I really looked up to him a lot. And then in terms of coaches, one of my first coaches was Lee Roper, who's the assistant coach in Northern Iowa now. And he helped me learn how to balance having fun and staying humble a lot.
Nice. Okay. So question 5. What's the biggest difference between high school wrestling and college wrestling?
Just the general the average level of everybody that you're wrestling against. So in high school and middle school or wherever you're wrestling up until college, you know that only a handful of your matches are going to be really, really good kids. So and you can win matches against kids who aren't that good if you're not wrestling your best. But once you get to college, even when kids aren't that good, if you don't wrestle your best, it's not going to go well. I lost matches to kids this year who I was definitely a lot better than, but I just didn't show up and wrestle as well as I possibly could have, and I suffered for it. So every match is you have to wrestle. It's it's the national finals.
Yeah. How get down to 125 pounds after during your senior year, you wrestled 138. What adjustment did you get there?
Well, I was never like really 138. I wrestled up a lot for my team because my high school team needed somebody at that weight. So I only really weighed about 135. And in terms of like the weight cut, it's just in college you can't really like have a bad weight cut the same way you can in high school. For what I was just talking about with the last question, you have to be able to wrestle your best every match. So it was just a lot of extra workouts and making sure I ate the right thing as much as I can. But in college, you're working out so much, it's usually pretty easy to get the weight off.
Nice.
Yeah. So, do you have any plans to wrestle freestyle or Greco while wrestling collegiately?
Yeah, definitely. I would have been going to Vegas this year for the junior nationals, and I plan on going next year and U23s and everything, like as much competition as I can get.
Yeah.
So you grew up and wrestled in Georgia, but it doesn't get the press that PA, Ohio, and New Jersey does. But I think some of the best coaches and some really good players in the states. What are your thoughts on Georgia wrestlers?
I think Georgia, especially now, maybe not a few years ago, but now it's definitely one of the best states in the country without a doubt. We have so many guys that are like Pargo champs and ranked in the top 5, and like they're all going to come into college soon and making big names hopefully. So I think the fact that we don't get as much press might be part of the reason that we've been getting so much better. Is a little bit more pressure, but I think Georgia is definitely a really, really good state for wrestling.
Mhm. So, why did you choose Stanford? It's on the other side of the country. Why did you choose Stanford to wrestle? Because it's so far away from from Georgia.
It's I think when you're looking at colleges, it's a lot about like weighing pros and cons of every school. And when I finally like went out to visit Stanford, I couldn't really find any cons to going there. And in terms of distance, like if I were going somewhere in New England or Pennsylvania, it's still just a plane ride away. So it's not really much further in terms of that. And like once I got to Stanford, I knew that's where I wanted to go. It just felt like home.
Yeah. So, do you have any other options other than Stanford?
Yeah, I was being recruited by Virginia, Campbell, Princeton, Columbia, and I think that was it. And Cornell a little bit. But Stanford just felt like home, and it's definitely got the best weather out of all of them. So
Yeah. If you have any matches that were like the most memorable to you, if you could pick one, which one was your favorite?
let's see. I think one of my favorite matches this past year was at my first tournament at the Citadel, and it was against a kid from Old Dominion. I forget his name, but I had known him going into the match, and he was another true freshman. He's multi-time like Fargo champ, like huge recruit. And then I ended up majoring him, so that was a really, really fun match because it kind of like helped me realize that I was good enough to be wrestling on the college level and doing well.
Yeah. So, kind of going into that last question, you outperformed a lot of high profile freshmen this year. How did you do it? A lot of people said you wouldn't have the success that you would this year, especially as a true freshman. In my opinion, I think it was the top true freshman in the country this year.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think after the first couple duels, my coaches started telling me, they're like, when I started doing well, they said I'm not a true freshman anymore. So they said I don't get to play that card. So I just kind of had to step up, and I had great coaches, great training partners, and I don't like to lose. So I did my best to work as hard as I could and get to where I was competing on the college level. And then I think a lot of it too is just mentally, like knowing I belonged there and I was able to compete with those guys.
Mhm.
So this is a general question, but like, what's your favorite thing about wrestling and why did you get into it?
So I mean, I started wrestling when I was in kindergarten, so I don't really remember why I got into it, but I do remember I liked it. And then I think honestly, like just especially having gone like so long without being able to wrestle recently, and then I finally have been able to start rolling around again a little bit. Like it's just really, really fun to wrestle, and and then like just the community that wrestling builds, like with everyone that you meet, and like you're so much closer to them than I feel like you would be with any other sport. So
Yes.
So, what have you been doing to train over quarantine?
So mostly like before, like while everything was completely closed down here, I was just doing as much cardio and lifting at home as I could, which it's not wrestling, but it's just trying to stay in shape. And then lately, like now that gyms have been able to open back up a little bit, I've been getting with smaller groups of other like college and good high school wrestlers and just wrestling live. Nothing serious because there's nothing to train for right now, but just have fun, try to get a little better.
Besides wrestling, what are some hobbies you have?
I mean, wrestling in school take up a lot of my time, but I enjoy like hiking and whenever I can, I really like I play video games. It's fun. Been trying to get better at Warzone, but and then just watching TV and hanging out with my friends whenever I can.
So how has wrestling helped you in life?
I think wrestling like kind of shows you like, especially with the weight cutting aspect and like just the way like how everything like just it has to get done. It kind of shows you that uh like I don't want to sound cheesy and say like anything's possible, but like it kind of shows you that it like it's not like you don't have to make as big a deal of stuff as like a lot of people might think. So like everything's just like nothing's harder than a weight cut. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
if I can do that, then I can figure out anything.
Yes. What's your favorite place to eat after weigh-ins, or like what's your favorite food?
My favorite thing to eat is poke, which is kind of like sushi, and I spent so much money on it. Yeah, just because you gotta make weight the next week too, so you can't get too big. But
Yeah.
so good. I ate so much of it this year.
So who's a wrestler you look up to?
Especially this past year, the people I've looked up to most, like on our team, we have Real Woods and Shane Griffith, and like just getting to hang out with them, and they're really, really good. So like just seeing how they go through life and like how they treat wrestling and like their mindset has been like a real inspiration.
Yeah.
What motivates you to keep on working and getting better?
I think a lot of it is like I don't like it for people to be better than me. I don't like to lose. So that's one thing. And then also like wrestling's something that I'm pretty good at and I want to see how good I'm able to get. And I don't want to like waste or like not put as much into it as I possibly can since I've already done so much work.
Mhm. So who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
It's a hard question, but I really like honestly. Pete Yates he's really fun to watch. He's really fun to wrestle with, and he's a great coach. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite move? Or what's your favorite move and why?
This past year it was like a little modified power half I kind of made up and learned how to use throughout the year, and it got me like I turned almost everybody I wrestled this year, which was a lot of fun. It's nice to be good on top. So that really really enjoyed that, and so just basic leg riding in general, I guess.
So would top
I think-
be,
Excuse me?
would you say top would be your favorite position?
With a leg in.
Nice.
Yeah, top.
So I think you might have already said this earlier, but how old were you when you started wrestling?
I was I don't remember if I was 5 or if I was already 6, but it was in kindergarten. So it's been a while.
What do you do to warm up before a match?
Usually when I'm a 125, so I'm usually the first match. So as soon as we get out after weigh-ins and eating, I sit meditate for a couple seconds, just try to relax because crowds are a little intimidating. But then after that, I just start trying to focus on what I'm gonna do in the match instead of worrying on what that guy's gonna do, and get my body as loose as I possibly can before I go out and wrestle.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite song to listen to before you wrestle, like before your match?
Yeah, it changes a lot, but this past year it was mostly I think "Out My Head" by Lil Wayne on his last album.
Yeah. Aside from wrestling, what is something you're good at that people wouldn't know?
There's not a lot, but I do pretty well in school, a lot better than people typically think I would, and yeah, and I really enjoy just talking, thinking about stuff,
Nice.
having conversations with people.
Mm-hmm. So if you could travel anywhere in the world, like anywhere, where would you go? Where do you want to go?
Right now, it would be back to school because I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. But
Yeah.
normally I think it'd be cool to go hang out in Europe or something for a little while and backpack around. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. If you could wrestle anybody past or present, who would you want to wrestle?
I really want to wrestle Spencer Lee. I thought I was gonna get the 33 seed at NCAA's. I'd have him first match, but I ended up not. So he's really good. He might be the best 125 that there's been in a really long time. So I think that'd be an awesome experience.
How do you think you do against Spencer Lee?
I don't think I would win, but I don't know. He's pretty good. So
Yeah.
we'd see.
Yeah.
I think I could give him a match though.
Yeah. So, what is your diet like for wrestling?
I try to eat pretty clean, just avoiding when I'm worried about making weight. So I try to stick mostly to grilled chicken, vegetables, and rice. And at our school, it's pretty easy because we have a lot of healthy foods in our dining halls. So, but just a lot of white rice and lots of vegetables, fruits,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. Chicken, just general clean food.
Yeah.
What are some goals you have for the season?
This season, I want to win Pac-12s, beat Brandon Courtney. Hopefully, third time's the charm.
Yeah.
Definitely see if I can improve on my record. I want to place at the scuffle, and I want to All-American NCAA's.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So, I have a question. What's your college wrestling goal? Overall, what's your goal?
I mean, honestly, my main goal is to get as good as I possibly can at wrestling, and hopefully that means I'll end up having a little bit more traditional success, All-American a couple times. But honestly, if I'm as good as I could possibly get, then I'll be happy.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
I think we're.
We just want to say thank you for coming on our podcast, and really appreciate it. And we'll see you some other time. So see you
All right.
next.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
Coming on.
Thanks for coming on the show.
No problem.